I am especially excited to talk about this week's album, not only because it's one of my favorite albums all time, but the fact that you both had never heard this album at all.
Right.
Got me so excited when you both said that to me when I suggested, hey, we should listen to this album. And you're like, oh, I've never heard that album. I got goosebumps to think about what it must be like for you both. So we are talking about Sleater-Kinney, one of my favorite bands, and their sort of, I guess it is sort of kind of considered their debut album, even though they had an album before this. But we're talking about Dig Me Out, 1997's Dig Me Out.
I grew up in San Francisco. So I grew up on the West Coast.
Sure.
And this was 97. So I was graduating high school in 98. That's when I graduated. Yes, I am that old, everybody. When you had us listen to this week, I knew Dig Me Out. I knew that song. I knew that song. I remembered that song, but I didn't know anything else. You know what I mean? Like I clearly was coming at this with blinders on. So that song got down to us like probably late 90s in San Francisco, but that's it. You know, and that it kind of got me thinking this week about one of the things that I thought about when we were listening to Kravitz from 89 was like, the diversity in rock and roll is just, you know, like what's going on? Like, why don't some of these bands that are female driven or African-American driven that are in rock and roll get the play that they should get?
It's a huge question. It's the reason I wanted to talk about this album today, to say, you listen to this album and this album kicks ass. In my opinion, I think every song hits in a different sort of way. It's so unlike anything. I think it's still relevant. The lyrics make a ton of sense. Sure, I don't necessarily know if this album could be recorded today, but there are people who are listening to this album today who have never heard this style of music, and they're 100% going to be influenced the same way that anybody who bought the Velvet Underground, their first album, they went and started a band. There are people who are going to listen to this album and going to go start a band.
Like, I don't know how this totally missed everything that I've ever listened to, but I've never listened to it, and I'm not familiar with the band at all until I heard Dig Me Out, the single off of it, and I was like, I was like, okay, yeah, I do recognize this song. And it's totally my wheelhouse, because punk rock is kind of like a genre of music that I've just loved forever. You know, like Social Distortion, Rancid, the Ramones, New York, right up in that same vein of that style of music that I just really like. And God, it was just it was really awesome, like kind of being exposed to it for the first time. And it was like getting you know, it was like I equate it to, like, you know, when you somebody has been talking up like a video game or something, right? And I play it and I'm just like, man, this is really enjoyable. Like, this is a lot of fun. I understand why so many people told me about it and everything. In this case, it wasn't so many people. It was Kellen going, hey, you should listen to this album. It was great. I enjoyed it a lot. I listened to it probably like 3 to 4 times, just because, I mean, it's only 36 minutes long. It's
a quick album. It's very listenable. It's really easy to sit down and to go on a run, or to just be like, I just want some really good punk rock music in the background. And again, it's not you know, the sort of Sleater-Kinney specific style of punk rock, the sort of Riot Grrrl derived and influenced sort of music. They have such a unique style that is, you know, the way that the dueling guitars sort of play, both Carrie and Corinne's vocals kind of going back and forth. And then this is also the introduction of Janet Weiss, who is their longest drummer, who is an absolutely phenomenal percussionist. And the way that this album is mixed is so drum forward, and she totally brings everything that the two guitars are doing together, right? She just totally it's just this cohesion of really incredible poetic and personal lyrics with really awesome rock and roll riffs and just big, bold drums.